Homage to the fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to the wisdom warrior Manjushri, homage to all the lineage masters. The supreme and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate beings, please generate bodhicitta. Next, we will discuss the Prajna chapter of the Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch. Previously, we explained that if one attains wisdom, Prajna Paramita, in a single moment, we can have a state of awakening. This state of awakening can range from the first Bodhisattva Bhumi all the way to the Buddha ground, allowing all the afflictions, suffering, and ignorance in our mind stream to naturally cease. Does this kind of state, this kind of practice exist? Indeed it does, since ancient times. Not to mention those who have completely attained Buddhahood, nowadays many practitioners, through the adjustment brought by the Dharma, those who were previously extremely suffering and troubled in their own mind stream, after encountering the Dharma and practicing the teachings on emptiness, their minds became very kind and extremely joyful. Such phenomena are things we witness and hear about in our daily lives. Therefore, studying such Mahayana Buddhist teachings is extremely important. Today we continue with the teaching. Good friends, with the wisdom of contemplation, inner and outer are illuminated clearly. Know your own original mind. If you know the original mind, that is original liberation. If you attain liberation, that is prajna samadhi. Prajna samadhi is no thought. The Sixth Patriarch also asked the good spiritual friends and disciples to use their own wisdom to observe their own minds. When observing your own mind, you will discover that whether it's the external world or the internal world of the mind, everything internal and external is very luminous. This luminosity is not what our eyes see, like light bulbs, the sun or the moon that shine brightly. So what kind of luminosity, what kind of clarity is it? Actually, it is not completely like empty space, a state of mere emptiness where there is nothing at all, nothing to attain. Using the mind to observe one's own mind, using the mind to clearly examine one's own mind. In terms of its essence, there is nothing to attain, completely empty, like the son of a barren woman. But in terms of its luminous aspect, it is a clear awareness, a clear knowing that appears yet is inextinguishable. This is what we often speak of in tantric teachings as the so-called luminosity. Recognizing luminosity is also frequently taught in Dzogchen, recognizing the true face of mind, recognizing the luminosity of mind. If this is further extended into the tantric context, speaking of the nature of Buddha nature, the nature of Buddha nature is recognized through two methods. One method is like the Dzogchen tantric approach of observing one's own mind and recognizing the luminosity of one's mind. Another method is observing bindu, completion stage practices and so forth, recognizing the luminous aspect of one's mind through other methods. This is the luminous aspect of mind. When you recognize the true face or the nature of mind in this way, at that moment, one can say liberation is completely in the present moment. In fact, recognizing the mind is not searching for it in some place, in the external directions of east, south, west, or north, or looking for it among the external mountains, rivers, and earth. It's not like that. The great masters of lineage throughout history, whether in Tibetan areas, the Han region, or India, when the great masters of any place recognize the nature of mind, they are actually using their own mind to observe their own mind. When observing one's own mind, in fact, in terms of essence, there won't be two minds, an observer and an observed. When observing oneself, one completely recognizes its nature. This is attaining without seeking, which means not searching completely, yet naturally obtaining in the process of not searching. This is what we often call prajna samadhi. Prajna samadhi is also non-thought. We often say meditation is without thoughts. Actually, according to Dzogchen, especially the teachings of His Holiness on pointing out instructions, when we combine them, it's very good. When we teach tantric teachings, self-knowing, self-aware vipassana, without attachment, non-thought, shamatha, and vipassana combined, this is the awareness of luminosity and emptiness inseparable. For the Platform Sutra, if one has some realization of the practice state of tantric teachings, comparing and referencing each other, one can probably realize many new states. If you have no realization of tantric practice at all, just having the sectarian view of Chan or Pure Land, you may not be able to fully explain the profound secret meaning of the Platform Sutra. In the past, I had only read it once or twice myself. On one hand, I felt it was very good, but on the other hand, I didn't feel that every analogy and every teaching in the Platform Sutra was particularly close to the most profound practices of our Tantra at the level of realization. Moreover, one can say they complement each other. Through its principles, one can further explain tantric practices. If one has some realization of Tantra, one can also further improve and elevate one's understanding of Chan principles. There will be this kind of mutual resonance in practice. So I think in our practice process, in everyone's process of recognition, when observing the nature of one's own mind, one will recognize it. This recognition, generally speaking, can be focused through meditation. Milarepa once said, "With a scattered mind it is difficult to understand the meaning of Mahayana, therefore one should concentrate on cultivating dhyana. If one practices Mahayana with a scattered mind, it is very, very difficult. So we must concentrate on practicing meditation. Buddhahood is not attained through seeking, therefore one should deeply contemplate the essence of self-nature. If we use conceptual thinking to search for the state of Buddha, it is extremely difficult. Then, through what method? Using the mind to observe one's own mind, using the mind to meditate on the true face and essence of one's own mind, at this time, one will definitely cultivate genuine meditation. Therefore, it is very important for us to practice meditation regularly to subdue the afflictions in our mind stream. At the same time, we need to recognize it. Nowadays, many people are just in a state of non-thought, but this is not very good. I see some people practicing Chan, not thinking about anything in their minds, just abiding like this. This is what Mifam Rinpoche called the Heshang school of non-thought. This should be abandoned. When you are without any thoughts, recognize its essence. That is, combining space and luminosity. We ordinary people with conceptual thinking feel this is impossible, but actually this is completely possible. The true face of mind, luminosity and emptiness that is originally without attainment is actually called the inseparability of luminosity and emptiness. The Buddha also taught in the Great Collection Sutra, if one can know and see the mind as such, like empty space and illusory appearances, this person attains freedom of mind. What does this mean? Earlier we said the mind is sequential in nature, arising through dependent origination. But if you completely know the true face of this mind, from the emptiness aspect, it is like space. From the luminous aspect, it appears yet is without inherent nature, like an illusion. Illusion and space, for people with conceptual thinking, cannot possibly be united. But actually, these two cannot but be united, because emptiness and appearance, these two correspond to each other. If anyone attains such a state, they will definitely gain freedom and attain liberation. Many great masters in Tantra also speak of self-liberation of afflictions. What is self-liberation of afflictions? When we generate desire, when we generate anger, if you can observe its nature, it will naturally unravel, naturally liberate itself. It's not that afflictions are something truly existent, and we use another mind of emptiness to destroy it. In the end, it's as if the mind without inherent nature has won, and the mind of afflictions has lost. After these two clash, one lost. Actually, it's not like that. The affliction is it. When you observe it with the mind, it naturally liberates in the end. The affliction that was originally liberated is also this mind. The mind that liberates is also it. The mind that was originally bound is also it. It's just whether you recognize it or not. This should be one of the most profound pith instructions in our Tantra. So in the Chan school, since they also use such words, they don't require empowerment or anything, so I'll explain a bit more. There won't be a great fault of transmitting or leaking tantric teachings, I hope. If there is, then the Dharma protectors can see what to do. What is called no thought. If seeing all dharmas, the mind is not stained or attached, this is no thought. What is non-thought? We often say the mind should not have thoughts. When sitting in meditation, there should be no thoughts. So what is non-thought? Actually, it means we see the true nature of all phenomena. The mind has no attachment, does not cling to it. This is true non-thought. In fact, non-thought has two levels. One level is that we need to see the true nature of all phenomena, the nature of nothing to attain. Since it is emptiness, we will not cling to it. These two are very important. Of course, before this we have emptiness and we also have luminosity. Of course, if one has no realization at all, it might be like a blind person touching an elephant, not necessarily able to fully comprehend. But actually it means the mind should abide nowhere, purifying its own nature. When the mind has no attachment at all, then one discovers its luminous aspect. When functioning, it pervades all places, yet is not attached to any place. Just purify the original mind, let the six consciousnesses emerge from the six gates, among the six sense objects, without defilement or mixture, coming and going freely, functioning without obstruction. This is prajna samadhi. Free and liberated, this is called the practice of no thought. Our mind can have great function. It can pervade the worldly and transcendental. It can pervade everything. Actually, our mind can follow any kind of object. For example, if my mind encounters a physics teacher, I can comprehend much knowledge of physics. If my mind follows a Chan teacher, my mind's wondrous function can attain great realization in the Chan aspect. If my mind follows someone who gambles and drinks every day, forming such a connection with them, my mind will also be polluted in these ways. So our mind is vaster than space. The reason lies here. When using the mind, if it is used in all places without clinging, and one's own mind is originally pure, originally without defilement, if one realizes this, when our mind is pure, the six consciousnesses of eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind can interact with the six external sense objects of form, sound, smell, taste, etc., without defilement. But we are not like this now, are we? When the ear hears words of praise about me, I become extremely happy. When others speak badly of me, I suffer greatly. So my mind has been stained by the suffering or happiness among the six sense objects. When my eyes see beautiful things, I cling to them. How wonderful if I could have this delicious food. How wonderful if I could have these nice clothes, surrounded by many, many objects. If I see unpleasant, unhappy objects, they make me generate all kinds of anger and so forth. So our six sense doors now are constantly turning with the external six sense objects. But if we truly realize that all phenomena are without clinging, that the nature of mind is emptiness, this true face, will Buddhas and Bodhisattvas see the colorful external world? They will see it. But will they have attachment like us, ordinary beings? They will not. Therefore, among the six sense objects without attachment, they are completely free to come and go, unobstructed in function, free to come and go without any obstruction. We are not free to come and go. In pleasant, good objects we like, we are always stuck and cannot pull ourselves out. Many people in the world now, some are extremely attached to wealth, stuck in the attachment to wealth and cannot pull out. Some are especially attached to emotions. Some are especially attached to status. Some are especially attached to their stinking skin bag, constantly looking in the mirror. When one wrinkle appears on the face or one white hair grows, they suffer so much they smash the mirror on the ground. This is nothing. People age. These have no relation. What does this indicate? Our mind has not yet truly obtained freedom to come and go. When one obtains freedom to come and go, many practitioners in the history of Chan, what were they like? The objects they encountered, I once heard a great master say, we people generally practice easily in adverse conditions, but find it hard to progress in favorable conditions, because when encountering favorable conditions, the power to transform afflictions into the path is weak. When encountering adverse conditions, some practitioners instead feel that when encountering such suffering now, they must pull themselves together. Then they begin to pay great attention. At this time, individual practitioners often become somewhat outstanding. Here it teaches that when one truly recognizes the essence of one's own mind, there is freedom to come and go. This is the so-called prajna samadhi. That is, obtaining freedom and liberation, the mind obtaining liberation. Actually, most critically, our mind cannot obtain liberation. When the mind obtains liberation, everything is fine. Everything is fundamentally resolved. If the mind has not obtained liberation, no matter how you pretend with your appearance, for example, some of us monastics wearing monastic robes very majestically, with shaved heads, outwardly appearing as if there's no difference from a golden glowing statue of Shakyamuni Buddha, temporarily for half an hour, for a moment, sitting with hands in mudra position. When sitting like this, truly just like a Buddha statue, the outer appearance is like this. But if internally desire, anger, and ignorance keep arising, after a while, when meditation is finished and coming out of concentration, there's no difference from ordinary worldly people. If our mind truly obtains freedom, regardless of outer appearance, indeed there is freedom to come and go, freedom and liberation, no suffering or afflictions in the mind. In these aspects, for us practitioners, inner observation is extremely important. This is the practice of non-thought. This is in terms of practice. If one thinks of nothing at all, causing thoughts to cease, this is bondage to Dharma. This is called extreme view. Here, especially for those who practice sitting meditation, those who often meditate, it teaches. If you do not think about all phenomena, and when various thoughts arise, immediately cut them off, cutting off all thoughts, is this the most ultimate practice? Actually, it is not the most ultimate practice. What is it? It is a kind of bondage in terms of the Dharma. It is also called an extreme view, not the view of the middle way. If our view is very correct, not thinking any thoughts, not thinking good, not thinking bad, is non-thought the highest? Actually, it is not either. So in this place we should know, ordinarily, when we sit in meditation, of course, in the beginning, putting down all chaotic thoughts, resting the thoughts, is still a very important step in Chan. But when you truly have rested conceptual thinking, you need to observe its true face. What is this state of non-thought mind really like? At this time, in Tantra it is the same, in Chan it is the same. The most important secret at that time is the true face of mind. Actually, the true face of mind originally is not without any thoughts, nor is it an emptiness without anything. What is it? Ultimately, it is the inseparability of emptiness and luminosity. This is inexpressible. The highest state in Tantra is also like this. Finally, you recognize, originally the essence of my mind, whether afflictions arise, whether my mind abides, whether I am having thoughts arise, whether I am sleeping, whether I am unconscious, when I am in various mental states of suffering, worry, happiness, joy, even when I eat pistachios and am extremely happy, etc. At all various times, my original inseparability of luminosity and emptiness has actually never left. Actually, this thing of luminosity, emptiness, inseparability, when expressed in words, cannot represent its true original form. Even using thought to express it is impossible, such an inexpressible thing. Actually, the state of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the most profound essence of Prajnaparamita, actually refers to it. It's just that we ordinary beings have not recognized it and continue drifting in samsara. At the beginning, you will recognize such a state. Then, continuing to practice, eventually your own mind effortlessly or quite easily, in a very short time, reaches such a state. Therefore, many practitioners, whether walking, standing, sitting or lying down in any posture or activity, will not depart from this state. Basically, we have tried and studied the practices of tantric teachings. Regarding Chan and other schools' highest teachings and states, in terms of text, one can say we have been very concerned and attentive for so many years. Just like a worldly merchant is particularly concerned about prices, people who buy stocks, often seen on the street looking at screens, their eyes constantly watching, has it gone up today? We are like this too. Regarding meditation practices, teachings that directly point to the original mind, we have been concerned for many years. What have we ultimately obtained? The ultimate secret meaning should be said to be no different. But actually, the paths we take to recognize it are, of course, various. Therefore, in our practice process, we have often said that Chan's mere non-thought is not necessarily the highest state. Among those of us here, some people especially like investigating Chan. Liking to investigate Chan is important. Now, from the perspective of nutrition and health science, many people in the West, many Western universities have meditation centers. Some of them do not acknowledge past and future lives at all, but indeed this non-thought meditation has immense benefits for their physical and mental health. Therefore, many of their spiritual guides specifically offer meditation courses in universities, and it has very great help for their body and mind. This is also a kind of teaching, but we are a bit different from them. We also need to acknowledge past and future lives. If one truly recognizes the mind in this life, no matter what status, the power of their practice is extremely strong. When we leave this human world, indeed one will attain liberation and will not be confused by afflictions. Here it says, if one thinks of nothing at all, not thinking of anything and sitting like this is an extreme view. The Chan school itself also says this very clearly. Actually, many people studying Chan now, I feel, have not even studied the Platform Sutra very thoroughly. If they were to study it, many wrong paths in practice could be easily eliminated. Good friends, those who awaken to the Dharma of no thought, all Dharmas are penetrated. Those who awaken to the Dharma of no thought see the realm of all Buddhas. Those who awaken to the Dharma of no thought reach the stage of Buddhahood. Here it says, good spiritual friends, if one truly comprehends the teaching of non-thought, what we just called non-thought is not just being without thoughts. Actually, the mind has recognized the mind and is endowed with luminosity and emptiness. This state we call the teaching of non-thought. Those who understand the teaching of non-thought will also be proficient in all phenomena. If the essence of mind, the inseparability of luminosity and emptiness, is realized by analogy, the entire worldly container world and sentient world, all phenomena encompassed by inner mind and outer objects, all realize the inseparability of luminosity and emptiness. If one sees this and enters the teaching of non-thought, actually they have already easily seen all the Buddhas of the 10 directions and have already obtained the state of all Buddhas. As I have said before, for example, practicing Guru Yoga, practicing any Buddhist teaching, what is the highest state? The state of luminosity, emptiness, inseparability. When we abide in the natural mind, the inconceivable state of luminosity, emptiness, inseparability, actually that state is also the state of all Buddhas of the 10 directions, also the state of lineage masters. It is also the most profound state of all bodhisattvas and dharma protectors. This is the most definitive Buddha, the most definitive Guru, the most definitive Yidam. So whatever teaching we practice, purification practices, or any of the 4 activities of pacifying, increasing, magnetizing, and wrathful, what is the highest state? Finally, abiding in an inconceivable state where luminosity and emptiness are no different. This is the most profound state. It is actually no different from the wisdom and secret meaning of all Buddhas and bodhisattvas of the 10 directions. This is seeing the state of the Buddhas. Those who awaken to the teaching of non-thought reach the Buddha ground. At the beginning, we recognize the nature of our own mind. Then gradually, from the first bhumi to the 10th bhumi, this state becomes more and more elevated, finally reaching the Buddha ground. The great masters of the Chan school actually also finally achieved this through this practice. Therefore, many of us here now, due to historical reasons, due to lineage reasons, many people may not attach much importance to teachings on observing the inner mind now. I see many Buddhists often, for example, receiving empowerments for wealth, longevity, peace. These aspects are also quite common. As for inner observation, such as self-liberation of afflictions, self-liberation of suffering, in these aspects there may be some people, only those who have some realization themselves, are interested in this aspect. Worldly people are especially attached to their lives. I often find that many people nowadays are especially realistic. Regarding any teaching, they ask if there is benefit for me now. If there is benefit, I will practice. If there is no benefit, what the next life will be like, what the final state will be, they don't care. So now the faculties in the 21st century are especially realistic. Everything must have a kind of fast food culture. The other day at an external research institute, the director of the institute said, I was teaching some Buddhism. For example, some tantric teachings of Tibetan Buddhism are equivalent to fast food. He asked me, then can we say there is now a fast food Buddhism in Buddhism? I said fast food Buddhism can indeed be said. Because some of our rituals, some of our oral transmission, directly and immediately take effect on the mind. Even just listening to one class, when one gains some recognition of the true face of afflictions one previously had, for example, originally when I generated suffering or afflictions, I had no way. At most, should I just let myself perish? I would think about getting rid of myself. Are there such cases? But now with the pith instructions of the Dharma, I don't need to commit suicide. When I observe the essence of afflictions, the afflictions will naturally disappear. This is the fastest path in Buddhism. If this method can make our lives happy, it may be much better than other material things, much better than many other things. Everyone should think about this. Next it says, good friends. Those of later generations who obtain my Dharma transmit this sudden teaching Dharma gate to those of the same view and same practice, and those who make vows to receive and uphold it, which is the same as serving the Buddha throughout life without retreating, they will certainly enter the noble position. Here it teaches good spiritual friends. These teachings of his, these teachings obtained by later generations, can be said to be the sudden teaching. The Chan teaching is the sudden teaching. Then, how should we propagate and practice this sudden teaching in the future? The recipients of propagation should be those with the same view and conduct. Those who similarly have relatively high understanding of the sudden teaching, practicing Chan, practicing Tantra, similarly interested in these aspects, if you have no understanding, conduct, or interest at all in the Chan teachings, transmitting to them is definitely inappropriate. Also, those who vow to regularly uphold such teachings and practice them properly, equivalent to serving the Buddha throughout life without regressing, such people will definitely enter the sacred stage. So I think the recipients of such Dharma transmission should be not for oneself, not for fame and gain, not for one's own benefit. In the future, regarding these Chan teachings, when there is opportunity, we should teach and transmit them to others. As I have said before, if it is not for one's own material gain and is completely for benefiting others, Chan or the preliminary practices in Tantra can be transmitted. If it is for one's own material gain, that is inappropriate. The Buddha also taught in the long discourses, not for the sake of material gain, nor seeking fame and reputation, out of compassion for sentient beings, turn the Dharma wheel with wisdom. Those who have complete compassion for sentient beings, such wise ones can turn the Dharma wheel. Or to say completely for the benefit of sentient beings, having such great compassion and wisdom, one can turn the Dharma wheel. Some of our Dharma friends here also often call me. Today, I met a very good student. Can I transmit a teaching to them? This is not something to get permission for by just making a phone call to someone. You should observe your own mind. If you truly have no thought of gaining benefit, and have no thought of gaining fame for yourself, etc., and completely have compassion for sentient beings, if the other party truly has the aspiration to seek the Dharma, you don't need to ask any master or Dharma teacher, saying, I met a very good student today. If I don't transmit the teaching, it seems a bit of a pity. They will run away immediately. Can I transmit a teaching to them? Are there such people? There are, right? So, for others, this Sixth Patriarch teaching, he also says, those with the same conduct, same view, meditation and practice, to such people we can transmit. If view and meditation are not in accord, it is best not to transmit these profound teachings to them. After transmitting, there will also not be much meaning. However, one must transmit what has been silently transmitted and entrusted from the past, must not conceal the true Dharma. If not of the same view and same practice, being in a different Dharma, must not transmit it. This transmission, from all the great lineage masters of the entire Chan school all the way to him, was transmitted singly or transmitted silently. It was not public. Before the Sixth Patriarch, basically it was transmitted down through the method of transmitting the robe and bowl. It was transmitted all the way there. Actually, this kind of Dharma transmission, if there are disciples, if there are such faculties, one also cannot keep the Dharma hidden and not transmit it to them. It should be transmitted. In other schools and teachings, if all aspects of conditions or faculties are not sufficient, one should not transmit to them either. It harms that person, ultimately without benefit. Fearing foolish people will not understand, slander this Dharma gate, for hundreds of kalpas and thousands of lifetimes, cutting off the Buddha nature seed. If we transmit to them such profound teachings, if transmitted to these people who do not truly possess virtuous roots, who do not have good faculties, it damages the Dharma connection left to them by the great masters of previous generations. For example, if we transmit Chan teachings to those in the Hinayana who especially slander the Mahayana state of luminosity, emptiness, inseparability, they may not accept it. Even if they accept, they will generate all kinds of doubts. In the end, they gain no benefit. It is very possible that these people will not understand the profound meaning of this teaching and will slander it. Later, for thousands and millions of years, in the hells among the hungry ghosts, their Buddha nature will be cut off. Completely cutting it off is impossible, but temporarily their virtuous roots are indeed cut off. Don't we often say not to transmit profound teachings to them? If you transmit to them, then their Buddha nature has been completely cut off. Actually, this is also a skillful means. We should try to see for some teachings. In front of the wise, the teachings of Mahayana Dharma can be transmitted. In front of the foolish, try to keep these teachings secret and not transmit them. If transmitted, it may not necessarily be beneficial for them. I once read a commentary on the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. I forgot which great master wrote it. In it, it teaches, the eternal classic of Mahayana, in front of the wise becomes nectar, in front of the foolish becomes poison. If the foolish take the wise person's nectar, they will die prematurely. And if the wise take the foolish person's poison, not only will they not die prematurely, it will also increase their wisdom. I feel this statement is very meaningful. Why is it said this way? For example, such profound teachings, when a foolish person reads them, for them it becomes a kind of poison. They will definitely often slander it. But for the wise, such profound teachings completely become nectar for them. For example, if today in this assembly I teach an emptiness teaching, the emptiness teaching for the wise is completely a kind of nectar. From then on in the long life of samsara, no matter what they encounter, when held by the view of emptiness, it is more effective than nectar. When the illness of afflictions appears, they immediately use this view, which is more valuable than nectar. But as for the foolish, when they hear such emptiness, oh, neither good nor evil, there is nothing. Nowadays there are often such people. The Buddha is in the mind, that's enough, nothing else is needed. Everything is emptiness, no need to practice any teaching. These people who can't empty anything at all also often say this. So I think for many of us here, encountering the genuine Dharma is also very important. But people without wisdom often cannot apply the genuine Dharma. This is also a very regrettable thing. Good friends, I have a formless verse. Each must recite and remember it, whether lay or monastic. Just rely on this to cultivate. If not cultivating oneself, only remembering my words, there is also no benefit. Listen to my verse. Next, the Sixth Patriarch says to these good spiritual friends, I have a formless verse to tell you. Below we will teach the formless verse. This is the very famous enlightenment verse of the Sixth Patriarch. This formless verse, it is best that everyone must be able to recite it and also practice it in reality. In terms of status, whether lay people or monastics, all can do this. The meaning is that the formless verse below, it is best to first understand it from the text, then contemplate its meaning, whether lay people or monastics, all should practice. If you do not practice yourself, merely these words I speak, the formless verse. If you just recite the words, you may not gain great benefit. Actually, in Chan, through such verses, one can also see that it still attaches great importance to hearing, contemplation, and meditation. It is not, as some people say, that Chan does not establish words. Chan does not value hearing, does not value recitation. Actually, it is not like that. In Chan, there is a pattern. At the beginning, everyone is required to obtain the theory well from a good spiritual friend. After obtaining it, repeatedly familiarize with it in one's own mind, recite it silently, and then truly be able to attain the state of awakening. This is very important. Otherwise, for many practitioners normally now this problem is quite common. In theory, everyone also thinks they understand quite well, but in contemplation there is quite a lack. In this case, I'm afraid no matter how much theory, how broad the learning, it may not be completely applicable. The Avatamsaka Sutra also teaches, like a person who gives great alms various fine foods not eating, starves to death. Much learning is also like this. If we do not consume it, this person will starve to death. Some people give abundantly, but if various foods are just placed in front, or if you yourself have not eaten one mouthful and give it all to others, then you yourself will starve to death. Similarly, some of us talk boastfully, verbally, perhaps spending a whole lifetime like me, teaching this, teaching that. One moment teaching logic, one moment teaching Madhyamaka, one moment teaching Prajnaparamita, but actually at the time of death, not even knowing one genuine practice to transform death into the path. Even if I know, it's of no use. So sometimes I think, alas, in a lifetime, one should say for decades, verbally teaching so much, but when I truly die that day, which pith instruction in practice can I actually use? If I cannot use it, I am truly the worst typical example. But there is no way. It is the manifestation of karma, felt by karma. So sometimes, when I am often concerned about myself, there is still an indescribable taste. So I think for many of our Dharma friends here, Dharma teachers, and also some lay practitioners, although some of you lay practitioners may not spend a lifetime teaching the Dharma, when you speak verbally, you are especially good at speaking. Some people who don't even approach the Dharma at all also have quite good eloquence. So since our teaching and research group was established, we have observed that some people's speech conforms to Buddhist sutras and shastras, while some do not conform to sutras and shastras at all, just their own nonsense. When speaking in front of others, it sounds logical and coherent, but this kind of speech is actually more dangerous. So although I don't dare to completely depart from sutras and shastras and teach others all my conceptual thinking, when I use them, I also try to use the teachings of lineage masters. I also try to learn more myself, but in practice, in contemplation, compared to hearing and teaching, one should say it is less. When lacking practice, much hearing is also like this. Just now it was also said, not eating, one starves to death. Much hearing is also like this. Many of us, not practicing, starve to death. Much hearing is also like this. So everyone should still practice. Next we will teach the formless verse of the Sixth Patriarch. The penetration of preaching and the penetration of mind are like the sun located in space. I transmit only the Dharma of seeing the nature. I have appeared in the world to destroy the false teachings. In the formless verse, the first verse says, mastery of speech is mastery of mind. Mastery of speech means regarding the doctrines of various schools, that is, from the perspective of teachings, according to the inclinations and faculties of different sentient beings, skillfully and expediently expounding or understanding from the perspective of reasoning. If one has mastery of speech in this way, this is mastery of mind. Mastery of mind means the mind is completely clear about all practices and schools. Theoretically, it also makes sense. In actual practice, one can also pass through. Any practice where speech is mastered, mind is mastered, speech is mastered, realization is mastered. If it is like this, it is like the sun not remaining in the sky, like the sun and moon not remaining in space, like the lotus not clinging to water. As it is taught in this way, just as the sun and moon cannot stop in space, practitioners with mastery of speech and mind in our mundane world are carefree and at ease. Everything is very convenient. Such people can alone transmit, can be the sole ones to transmit the sudden teaching we are now discussing. When such sudden teaching appears in the world, all wrong sects in the world are broken one by one. Actually, here in Chan, mainly it is a teaching of breaking characteristics. Whatever has attachment, in the end, whatever has attachment will all be broken. Previously, there was a Chan teaching called The Collection of Six Gates at Shaoxi. At that time, it was a very famous Chan treasure. In it, it says, if we have not seen our nature and then recite the Buddha's name, practice generosity, maintain precepts, can these lead to Buddhahood? The answer says these cannot lead to Buddhahood. Why? Because one has already entered into teachings with attachment, into the door of cause and effect. What can truly liberate? Only seeing one's nature can truly liberate. So when we practice the highest state of tantric teachings, especially when teaching the 9 vehicles of Dzogchen, the other 8 vehicles are all inappropriate. Some views teach that the other lower 8 vehicles are all inappropriate. Here it speaks of the teaching of seeing one's nature breaking all sects in the world that have characteristics and attachment. The Dharma has no sudden or gradual. Delusion and awakening have slow and fast. Only this gate of seeing one's nature, foolish people cannot fully comprehend. Originally, the Dharma in its essence has no gradual door or sudden door, high teachings or low teachings, or tantric teachings or sutra teachings. These divisions do not exist. It is only that among us people, some awaken quickly and some awaken slowly. In our confusion and awakening, there is a difference in speed. Actually, this statement is very important. In the Dharma itself, there is none. You see, some people awakened through the Vimalakirti Sutra, some people awakened through the Lotus Sutra, some people awakened through the Dzogchen view. So truly, the Dharma has no high or low, all is equal. When this principle is taught, indeed, the Dharma has no high or low. It is only that among us people there are indeed some differences. Some people, when Madhyamaka emptiness is taught, they fall asleep. Some people, when the great emptiness of Madhyamaka is taught, they awaken on the spot, their eyes opening wider and wider. Among those listening to teachings, it is also like this. Some people, as the teaching goes on, slowly their eyes no longer work, already squinting. In the end, not only do the eyes not work, the head also doesn't work, beginning to do this. Not only are they not interested, but from their entire demeanor, one can also see that this state is definitely such a person. If they are like this when listening to teachings, their practice will definitely be very slow. Some people, as the teaching goes on, because the emptiness teaching is especially suitable for them, at the beginning listening like this, later they become more and more interested. There is still a difference in this attitude. For example, watering different flowers. When some are watered more and more, the flower slowly closes and dies. When some are watered more and more, slowly, they open up. So the faculties of flowers are different, the faculties of people are also different. The Dharma has no sudden or gradual. Only people have differences in awakening and confusion. So when we see such teachings of seeing one's nature, indeed ordinary fools cannot fully comprehend. As for fools, it is impossible for them to truly comprehend its meaning. The profound meaning of emptiness upon emptiness, foolish people cannot understand. Extremely profound emptiness teachings, ordinary beings, ordinary fools, cannot understand their meaning. There is no way. So ordinary fools cannot fully comprehend. Although there are a myriad ways to explain it, those which are reasonable all revert to the one. Within the dark house of the afflictions, there always lives the sun of wisdom. From the theoretical perspective, from the doctrinal perspective, speaking of countless different theories, the Buddha taught 84,000 teachings, etc. But actually, valid theories can ultimately be traced to one place. Just as is consistently taught in Mahayana Buddhism, ultimately summed up, all phenomena are empty, the principle of selflessness. Or to say all phenomena ultimately return to the inseparability of luminosity and emptiness, such a state. As it says in the Father and Son Reunion Sutra, all teachings can arise from the letter A. Ultimately, they are subsumed within the letter A. A means non-arising. This non-arising and emptiness represents everything. Similarly, however much we speak, 10,000 times, 1,000 times, actually in the end, everything can be subsumed in selflessness. It is only that we sentient beings are very pitiful and do not understand. Each of us has different attachments, different preferences. This is each of our conceptual thinking. Actually, it is not the true essence of all phenomena. In the dark dwelling of afflictions, one must raise what? The sun of wisdom. When the sun of wisdom rises, the dwelling of 1,000 years of darkness will be illuminated on the spot. On the spot, all the darkness of ignorance can be broken. Previously, we were ordinary people, people heavily afflicted, but when you encounter a good spiritual friend, when you encounter genuine Mahayana teachings, when this sun of emptiness wisdom shines, you yourself completely understand, originally my mind is like this. It is only that wandering in samsara has been too long. never encountering a good spiritual friend, continuously wandering. Originally, there was a guru's Dzogchen song of view that said, "Since beginningless time wandering in samsara, pitiful deluded sentient beings. Today I have finally encountered you, such an extraordinary guide." In the process of constantly wandering, encountering such a protector on the spot, one has already found the path of return. Each of us in samsara has indeed turned countless times. If now we do not resolve our fundamental afflictions, we may still continuously transmigrate. This sun of wisdom exists in Chan teachings, and also exists in tantric teachings. It is only whether we ourselves can accept it. This depends on ourselves. The false comes, and the afflictions arrive too. The correct comes, and the afflictions are eliminated. Allowing neither false nor correct to function in purity, one arrives at the remainderless nirvana. When so-called wrong conceptual thinking comes out, afflictions of desire, anger, and ignorance begin to come. If wisdom, right mindfulness, prajna wisdom, non-thought wisdom appears, all afflictions are already gone on the spot, they are no more. Look at our own inner mind. Do we rely on the good teachings of good spiritual friends or on the bad words of evil advisors? The key depends on our merit, depends on our own kind of karmic connection, I suppose. Some people in pure Buddhist places, when they finally leave, they truly obtained compassion and wisdom. Compassion and wisdom will forever accompany them. Some people in pure practice places, not only do they not gain true compassion and wisdom, but instead a heap of afflictions and suffering, and may even have many negative karmas contaminate their own mind stream. Is it related to the practice place? The practice place, of course, has a relationship, but for the most part, it may also have a certain relationship with one's own mind. For example, many Dharma friends attending the Dharma assembly today came here. Some people with mindfulness and vigilance through this Dharma assembly indeed recited 400,000 Vajrasattva mantras and in the end purified much negative karma before leaving. Some people during the Dharma assembly, due to various reasons, their own thoughts turning badly, generating wrong views, slandering. Even here, conflicts between Vajradharma friends, etc., creating much karma. When leaving, not only did they not purify karma, but also added a big heap of karma, putting it in their pack, then carrying it, dragging it. Many big and small bags, taking them back. This is called taking karma to rebirth, so neither wrong nor right is used. In the end, both right and wrong, the so-called pure wisdom and compassion just mentioned, also not used. The impure also not used. In the end, there is nothing at all. All is the state beyond the 4 extremes and 8 elaborations. At that time, one has truly reached the Buddha ground. But at the beginning, we all find it very difficult to explain. Before, I may have taught about the famous Master Zibo of the Han region. He also, at the beginning, was first learning the teachings. Once, in the verse of an awakened one, cutting off false thoughts increases illness, pursuing true suchness is also wrong. He thought this was wrong. Severing delusion does not increase illness. Severing delusion there is no illness. Severing delusion should sever all illness. Approaching truth should not be heresy. How could approaching truth still be wrong view? Severing delusion also increases afflictions. This kind of statement is unreasonable. His generating of wrong view may also be related to his own merit. He did not hide with this wrong view. He took this as a huatu, a phrase to constantly inspire himself. Later he understood that originally the so-called wrong and illness are also a kind of conceptual thinking. In the end, he knew that what this awakening verse said was completely correct. He himself also awakened. At this time, all wrong and right are completely absent. Some of us now, a while ago, I taught about relying on teachers, speaking the same way. Putting the highest state in front, the lowest behind, this is inappropriate. At the beginning, there is wrong and right, there is good and evil. One must search for a teacher, examine a teacher. Between teacher and disciple, they are also ordinary friends. Such a relationship is also very good. This is better. When we practice virtue, first there is virtue and also evil. This is very good. In the end, indeed, neither good nor evil, not thinking, everything is absent. First eliminate non-merit. In the middle should eliminate the self. Lastly, eliminate all views, knowing this is the wise one. Later on, all views can be rejected. First, non-meritorious negative karma is severed. Then in the middle, all self-grasping will be severed. In the end, all existence and non-existence, self-grasping and no-self, all views are rejected. This is the true wise one. But now, many of us are not like this. First breaking all views, then beginning to break self-view, in the end breaking non-merit. Such a method of practice is completely inverted. Some of our observation of good spiritual friends is also like this. First treating the teacher as a Buddha, then beginning to examine. In the end, this teacher is definitely not, perhaps has no difference from Mara. They completely first view as Buddha, then examine, after examining, finally conclude. Such a method, many of our practitioners truly have responsibility. They have not clarified their own practice stages. So in our practice, first, do not create negative karma. One should cultivate much virtue. Then, at a certain point, cultivating virtue is actually also a kind of attachment. Then, using emptiness teachings, gradually sever this self-grasping. Finally, after severing self-grasping, there remains a kind of no-self. Then observe no-self. Does this no-self exist or not exist? Then observe. Finally, no-self is also not the ultimate view. At this time, existence, self, is not all these. As taught in Madhyamaka, such views are all completely broken. So here we teach, at the beginning, the wrong brings afflictions, the right brings wisdom. Wisdom and afflictions, wisdom should be good, afflictions should be bad. In the end, both wisdom and afflictions must be broken. Is that state a mere emptiness? It is not mere emptiness. At that time, as we just said, the true state of luminosity, emptiness, inseparability is that. But can our conceptual thinking figure that out? Probably not. Can our language, can ordinary people's language express it? Still cannot. But is there such a state? Indeed there is. Why? This existence is not brought about by telling mythological stories. Actually, in our own practice process, when you abide properly, you will also know, such a state can manifest. And also through our wisdom, when examining, this examining mind analyzing, finally reaching the peak from the emptiness aspect, such a state can also be examined. Then luminosity is also self-known. It is not completely an emptiness. That luminosity is also inconceivable. At first, to express in words, so I think these may also be some states of tantric teachings. But in the process of teaching Chan, I myself do not have very deep realization. However, having relied on lineage masters for many years, basically it is like a watermelon seller who has been selling for more than 20 years. They know watermelons at a glance. This is what kind. No matter what, having a simple method, they also know what the quality is like. So regarding mind training teachings, we have some familiarity, especially regarding some aspects of tantric teachings, the essential instructions of lineage great masters. Very familiar, having read much. Some places, I hope, should still be examined. This is also a very good karmic connection. Nothing else beyond this.
Bandara Badna Sodargye Bandara Badna Sodargye Bandara Badna Sodargye